just to give everybody a chance to join.
Need some background music, Danielle, while we're waiting to start.
You could sing, Mr. Notman.
I think that might put people off.
We all know you've got a lovely voice. Mrs. Robinson, if you you have more of an idea because I can't see, but if you'd just like to give me a green light for go whenever you think people are on.
Okay, we have 20 people on so far.
Fantastic.
I haven't managed to catch up with Kirsty, Danielle, around how many we're expecting. So we give it another couple of minutes and then we'll kick off, should we?
Okay, yep, perfect. Thank you. Am I back on?
Should we say 5:35 is start time?
Yes, you're back on.
Yeah, let's do that.
Super. Okay, super. So 5:35. I think it's probably time to kick off. So good evening, everybody, and welcome. Thank you for coming along. For any of you that don't know me, my name is Miss Robinson, and I hope your children have spent an informative and an enjoyable day getting acquainted with lessons and life in the Sixth Form Centre. So the outline for this evening is broadly as follows. You may have to bear with us. It may not be quite as slick as it normally is when we can be standing in front of you and presenting, but we'll do our very best to ensure that the technology works. So we have Mr. Notman and Dr. Stone on standby to give their overview of the Sixth Form, and we also have our prefect team who will be joining us at approximately 6 o'clock to talk to you, some live and some via recordings, which I'll share with you on my screen. So without further ado then, if I hand over to Mr. Notman, and he can give you his overview of Sixth Form at Stover. Thank you, Mr.
No, thank you, Mr. Robinson, and good evening, everybody. And the same from me. Obviously, with the virtual connection, things are slightly stilted and a little awkward in comparison to being in the room together. But please do, if you have questions that you think of as you go along, just pop them in the chat, type them into the chat feed, and then what we'll do at the end of the evening is just have a run through that chat and pick up any questions that have come up as we've worked our way through, and then indeed any that come up at the end of the meeting. So we'll do that at the end. Little bit from me, and I'm going to try to keep it very brief, because I think the most important voice that we want to hear tonight is our existing Sixth Formers. In other words, the actual customers or receivers of the educational service that we provide. That's where we get the genuine, I think, reflection on what Sixth Form is all about at Stover. So very brief piece from me up front. Thank you for joining. The first thing I think that's really important to say is we absolutely would welcome your lovely children into the Sixth Form. We want our Sixth Form to be vibrant. We know we can do a really, really good job of getting the very best educational outcomes out of the children that join us in the Sixth Form. In a sense, there is no difference from the provision that Stover provides right through the school. It's about knowing and understanding the individual. It's about having a relationship of trust and openness, and it's about catering for the needs of that individual to ensure that we grasp the very best outcomes that we can at the end of what is, in truth, a 19 or 20 month educational process. I think people think Sixth Form is a 2-year exercise. It's not really. By the time we get to the Easter of Upper Six, it's all over bar the shouting, and we're into sitting examinations and realizing educational academic outcomes. So, in a sense, for me, I think there's a little bit of a warning there. I think success at Sixth Form level is built on a really, really solid foundation. And I think that foundation is one of comfort and trust, ultimately. I think it's if you can start Sixth Form with those positions of trust and understanding in place, you are flying from the first moment. And we always have a tension every year. You know, I'll be very honest and upfront about this. We have a tension every year within our year 11, and the question is, should I stay or should I go? I think there's a song in there somewhere for the people from the right era. We always, I think, have a little bit of regret about some of the pupils who do go, who we know we could have done a really exceptional job for. And this time of year, right now, we are hearing bits and pieces from some of the pupils who have gone, who are slightly regretting that decision. So I think our job is to try and give reassurance and confidence around the fact that staying at Stover Sixth Form is about achieving outstanding examination results. It absolutely is. And our 100% pass rate this summer, with 39% of the grades at A&A Star, is real testament to the job that our staff do with our sixth formers. But in a sense, for me, that's not all sixth form is about, and the sixth formers themselves will add much more meat to the bones of my brief introduction. For me, sixth form is really about the personal development profile or project that Mrs. Robinson and her team insist, and that's the right word, insist that our sixth formers get involved with, because again, in keeping with the whole of the Stover story, we want our sixth formers to have their cake and eat it. So we want them to achieve outstanding value added in their examination outcomes, but equally, we want them to grow as people who are ready and have the skill sets they require to take on the world when they leave us at 18, nearly 19. So the personal development profile is about engaging our sixth formers in leadership, in problem solving, in risk management, in communication, in developing creativity, in all of those soft skills that sit with our research-based learning throughout the school. And in a sense, PDP is the icing, the final bit of icing on the Stover cake. And you will hear more about that later. So cake is absolutely the appropriate place to end my little bit. It's about the best of both worlds. You know, let's have our cake and eat it. Stunning exam results built on a ready-made foundation of trust and success and understanding of the individual. And let's build a whole lot more than that. Let's build a whole raft of soft skill so that our young people go out at post 18 being in demand by the workplace and the rest of the world, because they've got so much more to offer than an examination certificate. That is enough from me, absolutely. I don't want to talk for too long. I want you to hear from our sixth formers. So thank you for joining. Enjoy the evening. Please add your questions to the chat feed as we go along, and we'll field those at the end of the evening. Thank you, Mrs. Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Nutman. And so we'll pass on now to Dr. Stone, who will give us a specific overview of the academic side of sixth form. Thank you, Dr. Stone.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for, I was going to say tuning in, but it's not really, is it? It's logging in to join us. So just to give an overview then, the whole process starts with people choosing which subjects they want to take. And today, all of the year 11, as I'm sure you know, went and took some sample lessons and had a little bit of a taster of what it's like to be a sixth former. And this is the start of the process of them beginning to think about what they might like to study next year and to take forward. And obviously they're concentrating very much on their GCSE preparation at the moment, but this is the time to just in the back of the mind start thinking about particular subjects and making putative choices, shall we say. And usually we're looking at the most common way of doing this is to choose 3 or 4 subjects to study in year 12, and that would usually drop down to just 3 subjects in year 13. So people still can do an AS level after 1 year of study, which is worth 40% of the UCAS or university points of a full A level, and then to obviously carry on. We try to be as flexible as we possibly can in helping people to make their choices, and in allowing whatever combination they want to take. So the timetable, as ever, is only drawn up after we have asked people what combination of subjects they would like to study. So we try as much as we possibly can to fit to them rather than the other way around. And as well as studying 3 or 4 subjects, or sometimes fewer, there are also things such as the extended project qualification, again, which is worth half an A level, if you like, where people choose a topic to research and then make a presentation or do something similar. And this is growing every year, and it's something that universities are very keen on, and it's something that we have a remarkable success in running. There are various other things as well, such as the Sports Leaders Awards that people can join in with. So I'm going to try and just present something on the screen so that you can see it. Hopefully we'll be able to see that. And I'm sure that Miss Robinson will tell me if you can't, but there we are. So are we seeing something, the nice picture there?
Yes.
Lovely, okay. So there's quite a wide range of subjects that people can choose from. And over on the left, I suppose, are the more traditional subjects that people might immediately think of when they're thinking of what A-levels to study. But then over on the right, there are some more focused courses on particular skills and so on. And people can take a mixture of these things, or they can choose one set or the other, or whatever they want. And we try and be, as I say, as flexible as possible. And you can probably just run through and see the type of things that are there. Some of those subjects people haven't studied at all before, like psychology, for example. And so that's why a day like today is quite useful, where people begin to get a little bit of a taste of those. And then the other subjects, of course, it's a big jump up from GCSE to A-level. And so that's part of that process of choosing what it is that we do. So if you take 4 subjects, let's say this is a typical year 12 timetable, and you might think, oh, you're only doing 4 subjects, that will leave a lot of study time, as we call it, rather than free periods. But in fact, if you're studying for an EPQ and you're doing your 4 subjects and you're doing 4 lessons a week of games, and you might be doing sports leaders as well, as you can see, you're quite busy. You're kept on your toes there. And for everyone, this will be slightly different, but this is just an example timetable in year 12. In year 13, you would usually drop one of your 4 subjects if you are doing 4, and that would give you 7 more study periods through the week. So you know the story with Stover already, and what we have, of course, are the small classes and the knowledge of each individual as an individual rather than just as one of many or a number. So we have strong teacher-pupil relationships. And one of the advantages of just not deciding to go and explore something different is that you don't waste any time. And lots of research shows that you basically gain a grade by not spending your first term exploring new surroundings and a new way of doing things. And the Stover way of teaching remains the same, but obviously changes to a more tutorial-based and smaller class-based scenario, so that it is relaxed and stimulating and well-paced and so on, but there's more interaction at sixth form and more one-to-one time. And staff have been incredible over the past years at just the amount of extra time that they put in on a one-to-one or one-to-two basis. And we have our usual regular monitoring, feedback, effort and progress reports so that people know where they are and they know what it is that they've got to do. So all that stays in place, and the communication between the school and the individual pupil and the parents all carries on just as it is. So we have every year, in a normal year, we have a meeting where all the certificates are handed out, which is rather nice, which we're obviously not going to have this term, but we'll try and do something similar. So results from this year, just to give you an idea, so 90% of papers that were sat were marked at an A star to C, which is a very pleasing turnaround, I think, from that point of view. So I'm going to try and get back, hopefully, and there we are. So as I say, the booklet will be released very shortly, that people will start to look at the details of their courses, and I don't know if you can see, I'm going to hold that up to the camera, but there's a thing that looks like that. This is not very high tech, is it? I do apologise. And we have sections for each of the subjects and so on. I'm not sure how effective that was, but you get the idea. And so that will give all the information on the different courses, and people will start to talk now to their teachers. Obviously, you'll be involved in those discussions and thinking about the next step forward. There we are. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Stone. Everybody still, can we still hear me? Just checking. Yes, a few nods. Super. Okay. As Mr. Notman said at the beginning, I will as well try and be very brief. We do really believe that the sixth form have almost got more to tell you this evening than we have. And I'll just share a few things with you. And I have just skipped past it, but on that first slide there was our mantra, really, our motto for the sixth form, which is give more, become more. Something that we really believe in. Over the last few years, we've worked so hard to drive the sixth form to be completely embedded into every area of school life, and they really are now. And as Mr. Notman touched on, that is, we have been able to realise that through the PDP. The PDP being the Personal Development Project. It is split up into 3 strands. So strand 1 being leadership development, and we have huge scope for that at school. The prep school and the younger years provide scope for taking smaller classes of support. So, for example, Elliot, one of our year 13s last year, made a commitment to support a small group of year 6 with their maths. So he supported Mr. Appleby in a class once a week. Lisbeth, one of our overseas students from Germany, supported some year 7 pupils with their German speaking. So leadership is the first strand. The second strand being their own personal development. So through our activities program, or through the through the raft of other enrichment opportunities at Stover, such as choir and music and PE, is to encourage them to really look at themselves, look at the kind of intelligences that they may already be quite strong in, and encourage them to develop other areas of their intelligences based on this that you can see on the screen, which is Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences. And the third area is contribution to school life and the wider community. So again, we're encouraging involvement and asking them to be proactive. What do you do to make a contribution, both at school and in the wider community? And that can involve charity work, and duties around the school, and again taking on responsibilities which are all extremely important and will set them up for the next stage of their life. So this just a little bit about what do universities want. So this is straight from admissions that we have researched, and you can see the PDP. What it actually does is it really informs an effective personal statement. Personal statement is a piece of writing that the students have to include within their UCAS application, and it's the way that they sell themselves to a university. And through the opportunities that they have at Stover, they can really set themselves apart using that personal statement. And so the PDP in Year 12 is a tool really to focus them and to give them huge amounts of evidence to include in their personal statement.
Danielle, could you just read the bottom bullet out, because I've got a tab over the top of it, so I can't see it.
How do I go back? I've got a tab on the bottom. I can move mine. Evidence of positive attitude towards study and beyond, Mr. Notman.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So these are some of the ways that our students have developed their PDP in the past. Just sort of picking a few out, leading assemblies on different topics, such as Black History Month, by organising, coordinating whole school events such as sports days, through literacy leaders, which is our program of our reading program with Year 7. So each sixth former is assigned a reading buddy, and they spend 20 minutes on a Wednesday morning listening to, and sometimes listening to reading, and other times having a sort of pastoral chat to build relationships with the younger year groups, and to give them some responsibility. They can also give house points, which is a sign in their diaries, which is a nice way of bringing in those sort of parents and pupils all together. So they've led cancer research concerts, attending leadership lectures, and we'll come on to the speakers that we have in the sixth form a little bit later on. These are just some of the things that the sixth form have said. They've just sort of sound bited there. But they do talk about independence. They talk about drawing their attention to areas in which they can become more involved in school, being a better equipped person. And upgrading the personal statement. So just to come back to, just quite briefly, Dr. Stone talked about the EPQ. So we also encourage all of our students to undertake an EPQ, which can be something that just sort of runs along in the background. Either they can get it done in 1 year, or they can have it running along over the course of the 2 years. It is essentially a large piece of coursework. It's an extended independent piece of work, a research piece of work. And the reason why we are so positive about the EPQ is that it's extremely well regarded by all universities, Russell Group universities in particular, because it shows that this candidate has proven that they have the skills to succeed at undergraduate level of study. It's also a really good opportunity for the students to show extra interest in the subject that they're potentially going on to apply for. So it is either a research project, so an academic study of 5,000 words, but it can also be a practical study where the student ends up with an artifact that they present as their final piece of work. So, for example, that could be a play that they write and perform, or a piece of music, It could also be, we have had students a couple of years ago who decided to make a computer game. So they programmed it, handed that into the examiner played it, and yes, obviously they have to log how they do it, but they did very well indeed. And this is again taken from admissions offices and admissions tutors. So across the board, Russell Group University, Oxford, everybody is completely on the same page with UPQ. So it's an excellent opportunity for our students again to have that standout aspect. These are some of the titles of some of the UPQs that we've had over the last couple of years. So you can see it's a complete range of topics and subjects. And these are just some of the ways in which we add to the core of the apple. So the core of the apple being the academic subjects and those three grades that they'll come out with at the end of the sixth form, or 4 grades or 3.5 grades, and around around that core of the apple, hopefully you can see there the different opportunities that they will be able to take advantage of. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen. So more recently then, in terms of being involved in the school, even during this strange term that we find ourselves in, the sixth form have led the whole school in house assemblies. They have run quizzes for the houses. The year 13s are currently putting together a program of challenges for year 7 to 11, and they have Anastasi presented that superbly on Wednesday morning to the whole school, and they have themselves come up with a framework for how to judge the challenges that will be coming in. So even now, that they're really working hard and making every taking every opportunity to be involved in school life. So I would like to hand over, because I can see that she's there now, to Darcy Maxwell, our head girl. And the topic, or the title of her talk, is Why Choose Stover? So Darcy, whenever your microphone is on, we'll hand over to you.
First of all, I will tell you a little bit about myself, because I think that might help some of you with your decision. I previously had been at Stover for a very long time and completed my GCSEs here. Around year 11, I decided that I wanted to go to Oxbridge and found a programme at Exeter College which I thought would help me to get there better. I subsequently found out that that was not exactly true and returned to Stover around this time last year. This has really worked well for me, which I will talk about in a minute, and I have been happy to take on the role of head girl this year. Firstly, I know that a lot of you, parents and students, will be considering other schools, like I was when I was in your position. From personal experience, I can say that the grass is not always greener. Some of the things that Stover offers are unique and things that you won't be able to get elsewhere. For example, the smaller class sizes ensure that you reach your full potential. Teachers get to know you and can see your strengths and weaknesses and can really tailor the learning around that. One of the things that I know is often discussed when pupils consider leaving is something which in my year in year 11 was called the Stover bubble, and escaping that was something that was often talked about. This was a really big factor in my decision when I left school. However, the Stover bubble isn't really a bubble, in the sense that the spread of cultures and people from different backgrounds in the sixth form is something that you won't really be able to experience at a lot of other schools in the UK. Something Stover's really good at is attracting people from all different backgrounds, and experiencing this in the sixth form is something that's going to prepare you for real life. Ensuring that you're allowed to socialise and learn safely under current and future restrictions is going to be extremely important in your decision of your next steps after GCSE, especially in these uncertain times. Stover is extremely lucky in that its capacity is just small enough that we are allowed to all be in a bubble with each other. I know that many colleges and schools at the moment are putting students into bubbles where they are limited to only those people in their classes, which I personally would have found very difficult, as I like to be around lots of different people from lots of different areas and with lots of different interests, not just those in my classes. I'm sure you will be aware of the successes of Stover's online teaching programme over lockdown, and probably of the lack of successes of many other schools. I know that many schools are struggling to keep up with the demand that online learning has placed on teachers, and at the moment, lots of schools are being forced to go on lockdown, with no online learning for pupils. This will undoubtedly have an effect on exam results and students' well-being, and should be a factor to consider when choosing a sixth form college. Key to my sixth form choice was application to university, and the support that Stover has given me in this has been incredible. Stover has a programme in developing an outstanding university application, which I know isn't something I experienced elsewhere, and isn't something that you would be able to have access to at a different school. Even just looking at the universities that Stover pupils go to, it's easy to see that Stover students are well prepared for university and that universities are keen to snap them up. Miss Robinson, the head of sixth form, for example, worked with me on an individual basis in order to perfect my UCAS application. This is definitely something that you would not have the opportunity to have elsewhere. Stover students are assigned a member of the sixth form team to help them in whatever they decide is their next steps after sixth form. The host of opportunities available at sixth form enrich a CV or personal statement and make Stover pupils stand out. However, it's not all about academics, and some of the other sixth formers will talk to you later about the incredible enrichment opportunities that Stover offers.
Thank you, Darcy. That was super, and thank you for speaking up as well. I don't think it was you. I think it was a technology thing, but thank you. We heard you in the end. So excellent.
It definitely wasn't Darcy. She's not normally that quiet.
Xavier, are you there?
Yes, miss, I'm here.
Super. Okay, then. So I'll pass you over now, everybody, to our new head boy, Xavier, to give you a little bit more information. And the title of his, or the topic of his talk is academia in the sixth form. Thank you, Xavier.
Thank you, miss. Good evening, everyone. As miss mentioned, my name is Xavier, and I'm the head boy. Today, I'll be talking about academics and how to handle sixth form and all those things. So first of all, you're all here to hear about the next stage of your academic or educational careers. And without even beating about the bush, I'm just going to give it to you straight. Sixth form is quite hard. A-levels are hard, basically. You're going to face challenges that you've probably never faced in your life. And if you've had an experience like me, it will also be one of the most memorable and enjoyable moments of your life or in your school career. So Stover, or sixth form at Stover, has been great in many ways. And some of the stuff is that the fact that the lessons are so engaging and the way you're able to explore much deeper into the content of your subjects and the huge array of opportunities available to you are just some of the few ways that I think it's quite amazing. As I've just mentioned, in your A-levels, you're able to delve deeper into your subject choices. So this in turn means that, as everybody has probably told you, the step up from GCSE to A-levels is quite significant, and choosing subjects that you have a genuine interest in is essential. Not only are you required to understand much wider concepts in greater detail, but also exam questions give you less guidance when it comes to reaching the correct answer. And often you have to apply skills that you have developed into unfamiliar situations to solve problems. So all of this means that if you're not sufficiently interested in the subjects that you've chosen to study, you will not be motivated enough to work hard and reach your full potential, which I think is quite important. However, in all this difficulty, you're not alone because your teachers are there to support you. Your teachers play a pivotal role in developing your understanding, but this takes place in a slightly different way compared to lower down the school. At sixth form, you're much more independent in your learning style, and lessons become more tutorial-like, with the expectation that once you've left the lesson, you're expected to read and research further into what was covered. And I assure you, failing to embrace this greater independence will not bode well when it comes to sitting with your exams. Once more, the teachers are there not just to provide academic support, but also I found that they're very willing to offer advice on university applications, career aspirations, or even what you want to do next outside of school, with regards to the subjects that you're studying at A-levels. On a more personal level, I would say that my time at Stover, or my short time, because I've only been here for a year, has been quite memorable and rewarding. I've been provided with the necessary skills that I will need to succeed later in life. And for me, coming from another country and choosing the right sixth form was incredibly challenging and took a lot of time and consideration. However, after speaking to Mr. Notman and visiting Stover, I think my choice was made quite clear. The support has been like a vital part of my time here, especially the help and encouragement that comes from the staff. And I've overcome many challenges that I've faced and built my own coping mechanisms and strategies. So, in conclusion, if I were to give you one piece of advice as to how to make the best time or make the most out of your time at sixth form, it will be to not just sit back and let the time pass whilst doing the minimum, but put all your work and effort into immersing yourself in your studies and other opportunities that may arise. And I can assure you, once you put in all that effort, it will become more rewarding and it will be definitely all worth it. Thank you.
Thank you, Xavier. That was super. Sorry, I had a slight issue getting my microphone turned back on then. Thank you ever so much. Super to hear from you. Next, I would like to play you a video from our deputy head girl, but it is not quite loaded up yet on my system. So Elliot, as Pastoral Prefect, if I can pass over to you, if that would be okay. And Elliot has taken on a new role this year of Pastoral Prefect, which we feel in the current climate of schools, mental health, and the prevalence of that going forwards, we feel it's really important to have a sixth form representative to that extent. So that's what Elliot has just taken on. So he is going to talk to you a little bit about that. Thank you, Elliot.
Evening, everyone. I think the main thing I wanted to touch on, probably touched on a bit what Darcy said about choosing what school you're going to go to. We all understand that there's other options. We all understand that there's options you might prefer more due to various reasons, whether that's you want to be close to a city, you want to be with your mates. We all get that. I think the one thing I want to stress to you all is if you do choose to go to a school like Exeter, you will be a number on a screen to them. You will be a number with a grade. At Stover, you're a human. The teachers know you on a personal level. They're going to help you on a personal level, whether that's with your academics or not with your academics. It could be a life issue. It could be a academics issue. They're going to actually be able to help you on a level that's going to help you, not just tick a box. We helped this person. We did our job today. Because they really do care about what you do and how you go forward in life. I think as Miss Robinson said, I think the main thing is Stover is starting to see a lot more of the mental health prevalence within society. So things like having a prefect for that now, having a pastoral prefect, but also the pastoral team at Stover is amazing. You've got 6 safeguarding leaders. The whole of the sixth form are all pastorally qualified, so we've all got our safeguarding qualifications. There's a lot of help there should you ever need to draw from it. And there's a lot of people you can go to get that help, which I don't think you're going to get at other schools necessarily. But additionally to that, both the sixth formers have already told you about UCAS. It's the main thing all through sixth form. Obviously, you've got your exams at the end, but the main thing you are aiming for is university at the end of that, or apprenticeships, or whatever you may go to. That's really stressful. You're spending 2 years of your life on a cliff edge, essentially, hoping that you're going to get to a uni you want to go to. So it's really nice to have that pastoral support around you to help you de-stress, help you understand that it's not everything in life, but also push you to where you need to be. And as Darcy said, the personal statements, getting the support with that. I know Miss Robinson spent about 2 hours on Darcy. She probably spent the same on mine. It's ridiculous the amount of time all of the Stover staff spend on your personal statements. And it's something you're just not going to get anywhere else. pastorally, there's a lot I could say, but I think it's more appropriate to find out what you guys want to know. So is there any questions about the pastoral side? Obviously, all of the normal stuff applies. Stover goes far beyond that, but is there anything you guys specifically want to know about sixth form pastoral? I know it's quite hard to ask questions, but you could put your mic on or just type it away. It should be a lot easier in a room. Is there anything?
Oh, everybody's giving you an easy time there, Elliot.
That's it. No heckling from the floor.
Again, please type into the chat if you have a question that you'd like us to pick up later.
I mean, if there is any questions any of the parents or students want to know, parents, I'm sure if you get hold of Miss Robinson or Mr. Notman, they can get you in touch with me. Students, I'm in sixth form. Whenever I'm not in lessons, I'll be upstairs probably studying, so just come up and ask me. I'm happy to answer any questions throughout the year, whether that's advice on where you want to go or just in general, you want some pastoral support is what I'm here for. So you can always come find me.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Elliot. Super. I'm going to try to present my screen again now. And apologies if Halima's voice came into Elliot's presentation there at the beginning. My laptop was having a mini meltdown.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Halima Afalabi, and I'm going to talk to you about enrichment opportunities at Stover. Enrichment programs are designed to give students the opportunity to develop interests outside of the classroom. And at our sixth form, we have a wide range of opportunities available. We started off the school year with a few days of inductions and some team building. So on the first day, we went to River Dart and we did some high ropes. Then we went surfing and played games at the beach. And finally, we did a messy but very entertaining mud trail. And this is just really good opportunities to get to know all the new students and everyone else as well. More enrichment opportunities include the DOV Award, the 10 Tools Challenge, people do Lambda drama classes, the High Five Sports and Activities Camp, literacy leaders, sports leaders, the annual ski trip, the ski team, the history excursions, the battlefields trip, tour to France and Belgium, and the geography trip to Snowdonia. It is very important to note that these enrichment opportunities encourage us to be more independent, to be more confident, and to be better and just more successful members of our school community. Thank you.
Okay, so that my microphone is on. That was Halima there, our deputy head girl, just giving you a bit more information about enrichment. Ava, I can see you on the screen, so I'm going to pop to you now if that's okay, because yours sort of follows on quite nicely from Halima's. Ava's going to talk to us. Ava is a new head of house, so she is one of our prefect team, and she's going to talk to us about the social side of sixth. Thank you, Ava.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. As Miss said, I'm going to be talking about social events, and hopefully you can hear me. So here at Stover Sixth Form, we have at least one social event every half term, and each is a great opportunity to bond and to form close relationships outside of the school environment. So literally, like last week, we had a Domino's night where we had mountain.
PDP stands for Personal Development Profile. It is a structure in which a student.
Anyway, we had.
Carry on.
Okay, so we had our pizza night instead of a curry night, so we've adapted. We also go out for Christmas dinner to the Hare and Hounds, which is amazing just to have everyone out there. We have summer barbecues and we have buffets every half term, which is again a brilliant opportunity to make friends. We don't only go out for food though. We usually have an end of term trip, like in the spring term. Due to COVID, we couldn't, but we would have gone to Thorpe Park this year. We also have, as Halima mentioned, Induction Days, which become social events, and it gets us out of our comfort zone. So we've had escape rooms in Exeter, being locked in a room with people. You get to know them very well quite fast. We've also had the dry ski slopes in Plymouth, where we had some fun just going down on kind of buoys and rafts. We also, as Halima said, went to River Dart this year and the Mud Trail, which left, I think, all of us kind of begging for the lessons to start once we'd completed that trail. And we also have, as well, in sixth form, we have the downstairs area, which is, of course, their social area as well. If there's any questions at all, please let me know. And thank you very much for listening.
Ava.
Thank you, Ava.
Yes.
Do you want to talk a little bit, because I think it's something that we overlook at Stover and we think it's normal, but it's not. Do you want to talk a little bit about the way upper sixth and lower sixth mix? Is that something you can do off the top of your head? Sorry, I'm putting you on the spot here.
No, it's okay, I can do that. Okay,
Thank you.
so it was weird to think that there's two separate years in that building. Like, you'll find us, when it comes to registration, we're all just in one circle talking about, I don't really know. They can be the weirdest conversations in the world, just sitting there. Not necessarily, just like, I don't really know what we talk about. It becomes some of those conversations that you remember, but you don't remember for them what you've talked about. You remember about the laughter that you've had with people who you wouldn't necessarily talk to normally. We're very mixed. It's not just year 13, year 12. We all come together and just kind of forget what's happening, who's doing what A level. It's a good environment, really.
Thank you, Ava. That's super. I don't think any questions have gone into the chat, Ava, but if anybody does have any questions for Ava, perhaps you could pop them in the chat, or you could come along at the end to the question and answer section. Ava, thank you for that, and apologies that Rowan started speaking halfway through your thing as well. I'm trying to get a little bit ahead of the game every time, just to make sure that I've got things queued up. So I'm going to try and present Rowan. Okay, there he is. So this is our new deputy head boy, Rowan, and he's going to talk a little bit more about the PDP.
What is a PDP? PDP stands for Personal Development Profile. It is a structure in which a student can develop themselves into a more rounded and sculpted individual. However important academic studies are, they do not always provide the extra qualities of a person needed to ensure a placement over another candidate. These sets of personal skills will reduce the grey area between you and the competition. This basic framework will be covered by the frontal force of the sixth form organisation to enable maximum growth for the pupils. This will follow the footsteps of the Gardner's multiple intelligence model. This, in its simplest form, means that any minor areas within a person is then improved and treated, therefore creating this full human effect. For example, if a student has a particularly good verbal skills, but insubstantial kinesthetic skills, then there would be an emphasis on those kinesthetic skills by completing activities and tasks such as sports leaders and D&D. This model has a number of key areas that make up a collective intelligence to enable them to thrive in all environments. These areas consist of naturalist, musical, logical, moral, interpersonal, kinesthetic, linguistic, intrapersonal, and spatial. This flexible yet efficient program will sculpt an extremely well-established persona. This combination of academia results and life skills will initiate this exceptional sixth former that unis and employers are looking for. The benefits of the PDP scheme is more than meets the eye. It is not only the creation of a more competitive student at unis and jobs, but also the responsibility, roles and challenges that you face will provide you with a unique experience and thus the foundations of a well-rounded and holistic member of society. Thank you.
So that was Rowan there, giving a little bit more insight into the PDP. Anastasi, have you managed to get your sound working? I know you emailed me, thank you, to say that you were
hello, can everybody hear me?
there.
Hello?
Yes, you're very quiet, but we can hear you.
Very quiet, oh dear.
There's a first time for everything, Anastasi.
Oh dear, well, as long as you can all hear what I'm saying, I guess that'll do, will it? Is that okay? No? Hang on. So, I've put a microphone in. You might be able to hear me, but I can't hear. Ah, fantastic. Does that work? Okay, fantastic. I can't hear you, I'm afraid, so we'll just go with it. Okay, so thank you, everyone. Hello, so my name is Anastasis Alexakis, and I'll be speaking to you today about the house system we have in place here at Stover. So there are 3 houses, Mary Templar, of which I'm head of house, Elizabeth Seymour, and Victoria Courtney. So belonging to any of these houses teaches students to be loyal, to be engaged, and to contribute. One realizes that they're not simply an individual in amongst many other individuals, but that they're a key component within a tight-knit unit. The students learn to become actively involved in their house through the various inter-house competitions which are held throughout the year. So, for example, we are currently running challenges. Oh, my mic's just fallen off. We are currently running challenges which anyone from year 7 to 13 can enter on behalf of their house. These activities include poetry, baking, and Black history, and house points are awarded on the basis of participation and achievement. New tasks will be introduced every few weeks, meaning that everyone will have the chance to use their talents to help out their house. The existence of houses also mean that students have the opportunity to showcase their skills in leadership roles. I hope this gives you a flavour of how the house system functions and the important place it occupies within our community. That's what needs to be stressed, the important place it occupies. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Anastasia. That's fabulous. And thank you for sorting out your technical issues. And I would just like to say, and since that concludes our 7 talks from our 7 prefects, just while they're still on and they're still with us, just a huge thank you to all of you. You have spent a lot of time over the last week or so just getting those talks together, thinking about what you want to say, and also it's not easy. Those of you that presented live this evening, it's a very strange thing to do, and you obviously you had the benefit of it for a whole term of teaching, but you were on the other side of the camera, so it's a good experience for you guys, a good another little skill to add to your set, and there'll be some chocolate of some sort coming your way soon. I would think.
Yes, Mrs. Robinson?
Yes.
Can I just ask the 6th formers to hang on, because they will be far better placed to answer any questions than we are, I'm sure.
Absolutely, I'm sure they wouldn't mind doing that at all. I'm just going to present my screen for one final time. Actually, some of our year 12s recently have put together their first impressions of the 6th form. I would like to play one of those videos because just for time, we do have 4 or 5. What I think we might do, Mr. Notman, is when when we have this whole meet recorded, I might put it together with the other bits and pieces that I have, that I think perhaps to play now might take a little bit too long, and send that out to all year 11 parents to watch or look at in their own time.
Views to Dartmoor.
I'm speaking. So this is Anna, who's a current year 12 pupil. Giving her first impressions of life in the sixth form.
Hello, I'm Anna, and I joined Stover when I was in year 3 and 9 in year 12. I've always loved Stover. It's a beautiful place, got lovely grounds, views to Dartmoor. So it's very friendly, not just the teachers and the pupils, but the groundsmen, the dinner ladies, the cleaning staff always greet me with a friendly smile. There are, of course, the lessons, the teachers, the music, the sport, the trips, the lunchtime activities. They all make Stover such a special place, not to mention, of course, the lunches, which, if I'm honest, are probably one of my favourite bits. Over the years, Stover has allowed me to gain confidence, to achieve better GCSE results than I expected, but mostly it's provided a whole range of extracurricular and social opportunities that have helped to make me who I am today. So, why did I choose Stover to do my A-levels? Well, I, of course, considered going elsewhere. After 9 years of being in the same school, there's always a temptation to go and find something else, maybe new teachers, new friends, a new place, a new routine. So I weighed up my options, but it didn't take me long to realise that change for the sake of change wasn't for me. And actually the prospect of not being a part of Stover anymore even left me feeling somewhat sad. So we got stuck in straight away to lessons, and we carried on with other activities like I continued with orchestra, choir, the combined cadet force, and hopefully soon 10 tours as well. But I think the main reason that I chose to stay was because I know that Stover is the best place for me to get the best results that I can. And as well as the academic step up in sixth form, our family have been given a lot more independence, and we're given our own work areas for when we don't have lessons. But what I've enjoyed the most is getting a much deeper understanding of the subjects that I've chosen, and the small class sizes and close teacher-pupil relationships really makes learning much easier. I've also enjoyed the social side of Year 12 and of sixth form life. Already we've had a barbecue night, pizza night, so basically more food. We've been surfing, we've been on a high ropes course, we've done a mud trail, which unsurprisingly is pretty muddy. But all in all, I'm glad that I chose to stay at Stover. And well, I would recommend Stover sixth form.
And in fact, so thank you to Anna, Anna, one of our Year 12 students there, and food being a recurring theme throughout the sixth form experience. Absolutely, I don't know where that comes from. So yes, but absolutely true. Mrs. Stone, I can see that you're there. I just wanted to throw out to you, just in case you would like to add anything. Mrs. Stone is a deputy head of sixth form. If you've got anything that you would like to add, Mrs. Stone?
Well, not at all. I mean, I'm involved in sixth form, but also for the first time I have a daughter in the sixth form this year, and so I can talk as a parent as well. And you know, we are very happy with experience from our child rather than hearing it from other pupils. I think you've covered pretty much everything tonight. I think the sixth form have been a credit to the school, so I don't think I've got much to add. Thank you.
Ideal. Thank you ever so much. So, Mr. Notman, Dr. Stone, if you're happy, then we can open up the floor for questions.
We just need somebody brave enough to start us off.
Good question, Lizzie. Is there a minimum number of students for the subject to run? Dr. Stone?
Well, we try and be as pragmatic as we can, and it's probably the best scenario is to have some other people to work with, although not, in the past we've seen people work just on their own and do really, really well. So it's a swings and roundabouts thing, really. So we just try and be as flexible as we possibly can about providing what it is that people want and what they need to move forward.
Can I add a little bit to that, Dr. Stone?
Please do.
So again, I think Dr. Stone's probably underselling himself a little bit there. The position absolutely is that we will look at each individual and the subjects that they want to study and the pathways that will lead them to post-18. And we do have cases where we're running classes at 2 pupils, 3 pupils, even 1 pupil in some cases. So it's effectively private tuition. But if the individual and the circumstance justifies that kind of provision, then we will lay it on. As Dr. Stone says, ideally a group of 5, 6, 8 means there's a little bit more interaction within the classroom environment, but we've had great successes with classes of 2 and 1 on occasion, and Darcy was nodding in agreement there, because one of your classes is you, Darcy, isn't it? Yeah. Mrs. Robinson, do you want to pick up how many students across year 12 and 13?
Yes. Okay. So at the moment we are a whole cohort of 35, and we would expect next year for that number to increase slightly. Would probably be, I would envisage, at 40 or so, I would imagine. Mr. Notman, Dr. Stone?
Yeah, again, from me, I mean, you will know if you've been parents at the school for the last 3 or 4 years, the groups coming up into year 11 have grown. So it's very much a shifting sand, Mr. Mitchell. So if we look back 3 years, we were recruiting from a year 11 of low 30s, mid 30s. Our current year 11 is 48. I think I'm right with that number. And we very much hope that we recruit 25, 30, even 35 from that group, which will grow the sixth form to more of a 50-strong head count rather than the 35 to 40 it's sat at the moment.
Thank you, Mr. So why do you drop a subject in the second year? Dr. Stone?
Yes, thank you very much. Well, of course, you don't have to. What I was describing there was a common way of doing things. There are a number of reasons, really, why people may start off with 4 and go down to 3, or start off with 3 and go down to 2, whatever it is, because, as I say, we're as flexible as needs be. It's having a bit of a safety net, really, when you start off. You've gone down from, your 9 or 10 subjects maybe down to 3 or 4. And so some people find that quite a difficult choice to make. And so just the comfort of having an extra choice to fall back on if things progress differently from how they're envisaged at the start is an advantage. But also a 4th subject is an end in itself. And so, I mean, just a common way of doing it is to somebody who's studying 3 sciences or something, might want to have an AS in you know, Chinese as well, or some foreign language, or a completely unconnected thing. It's fun. It adds to the quality of your experience, but also it shows that you're versatile, and it shows a bit of your breadth when you're going on to university and beyond. So it's you don't have to do that, but for most people it makes sense. As Mr. Notman has said, we take every single case, you know, individually and look at the criteria that pertain, and everyone is different. So there's no fixed pattern, but it's just that's a tried and tested way for the majority.
Yeah, and I would stress Dr. Stone's finishing point there. Really, it's about flexibility and about individuality. So equally, we have some pupils who will start with 2 or 3 subjects, 2 subjects plus an EPQ, and a sports leader and a COPE qualification, perhaps. It's very much tailoring to individual need. The 4 subjects in some schools, that I think there is an inflexibility around. You have to start with 4, you have to drop 1 at the end of lower 6. We're independent, so we can tailor our provision to the needs of the pupil. There's a question about international students. Xavier, do you want to take that one?
Yes, sir, sure.
Yes, good. You
I
asked
can't
me
really see the question. Okay.
It's just in the chat feed. If you click on the chat, the question is, how many international students do you have in your A level, and what support does the school provide to international students?
So we have quite a few. I can say right now, currently, there are about 5 people, or 7 people, right, who are international. And I think the school does a good job in supporting them in terms of English and other stuff. I've seen for myself in my maths class, we have 2 international students, and the teachers are very good in explaining things to them, because obviously maths is built on English, and some questions may require certain understanding that even a person who speaks English as a first language may not understand. So the teachers do a very good job in supporting them. Additionally, there's also English as an additional language, EAL, which Miss Stone teaches. And I think she also does a good job in teaching them, and they're able to actually cope with that and understand, you know, what their lessons are looking for them. I also think Stover makes it very easy for them to transition, because for me, coming from Ghana and just being dumped in a boarding school was not the easiest, but I think the transition was very smooth and easy for me, because the people here are so lovely. I can't stress enough on that. And, you know, it was really easy to make friends and kind of interact with everyone else. So I would say that the school is quite good.
Yeah, Mrs. Stone, do you want to take over that?
Yes, thank you very much, Xavier. You've done a fantastic job. I don't have much more to say. Teaching English as an additional language, I have to say that we welcome pupils from a foreign country. I just do think that they add to the mosaic, and they have a lot to give. So thank you very much. We also have, I mean, this year I've just counted very briefly, just in the 6th form, probably 8 pupils coming from a range of different countries. So that's a massive advantage as well, because you don't end up with just one dominant nationality, which would possibly make their learning very English, not as rapid. So for instance, we've got one girl from Thailand, we've got some 2 pupils from Taiwan. We've got Xavier from Ghana. Okay, well, Xavier, I mean, you're a fluent speaker anyway, so I'm not quite sure how, in terms of EL, you fit in. We've got somebody from Germany, somebody from France. This year, we've got somebody from South Korea. And what these pupils have also done, I think they're able to make, for instance, presentations about themselves, about what it's like to live through a second language, but also to bring a bit of their world to Stover. And that's another thing that I think is very educational for any boarding school. So that's the, please, you know, foreign pupils, it's important that you come and join Stover as well. The other thing, in terms of support, thank you, Xavier, you've mentioned EL. EL is not compulsory. It's very much tailored depending on the needs of the pupil. We have some pupils who are foreign, but I've never actually come to, you know, maybe I've seen them once or twice, obviously, to assess them, but haven't needed to come to EL. Because their level of English was good enough to follow lessons. If, of course, they need it for whatever reason for support, we've got EL supported study, but we also have, particularly from year 10 onwards, EL lessons. The final point I would like to say is if you decide to send your children to the UK and to secondary school, but then if they would like to continue to university, they will need to have some English qualification. If they've joined the school after the GCSEs, they will not have a GCSE level. So they need to have another qualification in English, which is called the IELTS. Well, one of them is called the IELTS, International English Language Test, which is what we prepare in year 12 and year 13. So it's not English literature, it's very technical. But that's what's required, and we prepare it. I think the question was from Miss Long, I think. Am I right to think that you are Ellie's mum? Sorry, I can't.
You just need to pop your mic on, Miss Long.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yeah. I can, yes.
Yes, my niece, unfortunately, she cannot join us because it's the middle of night in Beijing. Yes. And she would like to know the international student whether school can actually support her, and also she would like to choose mathematics, further mathematics, chemistry, and economics. Can school provide the support for her? I mean, I understand she's probably a bit ambitious. Maybe she cannot actually cope with the full four subjects, but her math and chemistry are really, really good, very strong. Maybe economics, I think. But at this stage, because I went to your school quite late, so I didn't actually do full research. So if you could actually explain, that would be lovely.
Well, we do have pupils who have a profile quite similar to the subject choices you've mentioned, and you know. Of course, the learning of English, what I would say, is also happening not just through EL at all. EL provides a safety net if they need support, if they need explanations about the technicalities of English. But as Xavier mentioned, the teachers within the lesson, and as a foreign person myself, that's how you learn English, through having a reason and a content to develop your English around. So I have no doubt that the best way to learn English is to be just thrown in at the deep end, and just to learn English around your subject. So please, I would think just give it a go, really. Thank you.
I think that's where the social setting that's been talked through around the sixth form is so important. So the fact that the overseas students and our normal percentage ratio is about 10 to 20% of the cohort being overseas. That's been squashed a little bit this year because of COVID and the difficulty of travelling. We had 2 or 3 lower sixth students who were due to come in and haven't been able to. But the fact that the students are welcomed into the sixth form setting socially, the upper sixth and lower sixth are just one social group, because as Mrs. Stone says, it's about that natural conversation. Ava talked about the laughs and conversations that you have within the sixth form setting. That's where you develop a natural fluency with the language.
Thank you very much. Can I just get back to Sam's question? Is there a provision for mock interviews for university? Yes, it is the short answer. Absolutely. Dr. Stone will be picking up our Oxbridge applicants, the deadline for which it is tomorrow for sending off those applications, of which we have a handful this year. He's a hard taskmaster in a mock interview. So he will be putting them through their paces. But but it will also start with actually tutorials during our PSHE and our UCAS sessions on best practice for interviews, which we do go through at quite some length. And then also we have lined up some ex-Oxbridge admissions tutors who are able to do after half term some online Zoom interview practice with our UCAS applicants for this year. So we're hoping that that's a model that we'll be able to use going forwards.
Mrs. Notman's also a former admissions tutor for Manchester Uni, so feel free to draw on that expertise.
Noted. Thank you, Mr. Notman. Dr. Stone, could you perhaps pick up the timing for making A-level choices or committing to join sixth form?
Yes, certainly. So after Christmas is when people can start thinking about their choices in earnest. And at the end of the spring term, we will go around and interview every member of Year 13. Of Year 11. And we'll start planning the timetabling based on what they say. Now, it's not set in stone at that stage, but it's useful to try and be as accurate as possible, because that helps the timetable suit you. So then in the summer term, we'll repeat that exercise in a slightly sort of lighter way, and just make sure that everyone's still happy with what they're doing and what they're planning for. And then we will make sure that the timetable works. That being said, moving into sixth form is a slightly unusual thing, because people often change their minds after their GCSE successes or non-successes or whatever, or just have a change of heart. And so even at the very last minute, if it can be done, we will try and facilitate people and try and let them fit in, which is a long-winded way of saying after Christmas. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I think in terms of running through the questions, I think we've answered everything that has been asked so far. Unless anybody else has anything that they would like to throw in. No. Okay, super. In which case, the other Mrs. Robinson. Oh, hang on, sorry, Mr. Beck. When are scholarship auditions? When are scholarship auditions?
Okay, so the scholarships for sixth form occur just before Christmas, at the end of autumn of this term, if you like. And there's a separate scholarship booklet which explains the process, and it's academic, sport, music, and the other one. Which was it?
Art.
Thank you. Not to forget art, of course, which is probably the most important. And each one has its own criteria, and the assessments are made just towards the end of term, and then letters are sent out as soon as possible, so that people know what they can plan for after Christmas.
Thank you, Dr. Stone. Mr. Notman, could you perhaps pick up Mr. Mitchell's question? For new students, will there be an opportunity to visit?
Yes. So COVID. My door is opening. Sorry, I'm just in the middle of a meeting, Luke. Yeah, we're nearly there. Okay. I'm in the middle of a meeting. Sorry, I need to take my son to his dance class, so he's bugging me to go. But we'll wrap up. So COVID is obviously a fly in the ointment in terms of our normal admission process, which would be about taster days, crucially, for prospective students who are joining the sixth form from outside of the school. We are sincerely, we're holding fire on taster days and hoping that at some point towards the end of the spring term or early summer term, the COVID guidelines and restrictions will be relaxed, and we can invite out students from outside of the school into our bubble to spend 2 or 3 days with our sixth form. If that is not possible, i.e. if COVID restrictions run through the whole of the next 2.5 terms, then we will have what we call rolling taster at the start of the sixth form, lower sixth form. So that will mean there is a no obligation week or two at the start of lower sixth, where you can become a pupil, and if you decide, oh no, so it's not what I thought it was, you can walk away. The registrar's team at the moment, though, are doing tours of the school for prospective pupils, slightly at arm's length from the classrooms and the pupils, because we can't have that face-to-face interaction going on, and it's a real shame, because you've seen tonight that you meet our pupils and it sells the school for itself. I mean, they're incredible role models, very impressive young people. So we would welcome you coming in to tour and look around, but as I say, it's slightly more septic and arm's length than it might be in normal circumstances. But you get a feel for the atmosphere by walking around, looking into classrooms, seeing the pupils in action at arm's length. I hope that answers the question. Mrs. Robinson, do you want to say anything about additional events from here for year 11? Are there other plans afoot following on from today and this evening? So we ran on Monday. The year 11s were able to, we ran our subject talks session, which was broadly like a bit of a parents' evening, really, but without the parents, where the year 11 pupils went around, and our sixth formers were sat at different subject tables, so the year 11s were able to go and just get a little bit more insight, honest insight into the makeup of those particular subjects at A-level standard, the structure of the course, how it's taught, how it's assessed, what's covered, all those kind of things. So that forms the beginning of our program of induction for year 11, and obviously today they've had time spent in the sixth form centre. We will be running 1 or 2 other social events to help to mix our year 11s with the sixth form as part of the induction program. And then, of course, come the summer term, it would be our week of induction, which would include safeguarding training, all of our year 11s who will be returning to the sixth form, first aid, training them so they're ready to pick up their roles as mentors, and as role models and prefects, ready to hit the ground running. But also trips like our fishing trip and barbecue, where we caught our own mackerel and then gutted it and cooked it in the garden of the sixth form centre. And as Ava mentioned, you know, our whole induction programme of escape rooms and mud trails and high wires and zip wires and everything else that you can imagine. So does that answer your question, Mr. Notman? Yeah, I think so. And really important, I think, to say to pupils who are looking from outside of the school to come in, we can be totally flexible around, for example, I'm really interested in economics. Okay, we'll set up a virtual conversation with a couple of our existing year 12 or 13 economics students, have a chat to them online about their experience. You know, let's go to the horse's mouth, because again, our pupils, you know, they speak for themselves, really. There you are. That's what Stover Sixth Form provides. So yes, again, for Mrs. Long perhaps and Miss Mitchell, you know, if you're looking from outside and there are particular things that you require or you'd like to dig into, the virtual connection opens up a whole raft of opportunities that we perhaps haven't mined before. So do let us know. Just drop us an email with with things you'd like to find out about. And I think the answer to the evening being recorded, Mrs. Robinson, is yes, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And what we would do is we will draw together all the information that has been shared tonight, anything that's been presented live or via video, and package it together with the other pieces that we haven't perhaps had time to share, and then send that all out to you all as one package, so that you can digest it at your leisure.
Yeah, so the information booklet that Dr. Stone showed earlier around choices of subjects and that will be sent out to all parents following on from the evening. Okay, well, I will just wrap up very quickly then by thanking our sixth formers for being incredible. You are absolute testimony to the job that the sixth form team do. You know, if we needed to bottle and sell what is PDP, do we produce fully rounded, proficient, aspirational, impressive, incredibly pleasant and welcoming young people who can stand up in front of a group of adults they don't really know and present? Then yes, we do. And you know, thank you so much for doing that. I can't undersell the importance of the sixth form being a community group, not a lower six and an upper six who are separated and don't really talk to each other. And that is a huge advantage for the lower six particularly, because from day one they can tap into the knowledge of the upper six and design their pathway through the sixth form with that pupil to pupil, peer to peer support, which is invaluable. And again, you can see the type of impressive role models that they are tapping into from day one because of that lack of separation between upper and lower six. Really powerful. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mrs. Robinson. Thank you, our sixth form. And thank you for joining. I hope it's been useful.
Thank you very much.
Today. As you can see behind me, this is all out and an outside space, and it's perfect if you want to come chit chat or to do some revision. Hi. So come on inside. Hi guys. So this is our very own relaxed space. It's perfect to come and sit in the sofas and watch the television with your friends. We also have tea and coffee making facilities if you're interested. This is our venue. It's very important not to forget that one. This is our own space, and at the moment we're actually redesigning it and making it even cooler than it already is. So this is our casual study space, and it's perfect when the sun's beaming in. It's the perfect place to be, in my opinion. Over here, lessons take place, and our very own careers advisor comes in and speaks to us about what we want to do in the future. But we also have our very own computer facilities over here too. These are our individual study spaces, and when I need a quiet place to come and work, this is where I go. When I joined the sixth form, I found that I was given a lot more independence, and with independence comes responsibility. Personally, I thrive off of this. As you have seen, Stowe sixth form has its very own building, but that does not mean we are part of the school. Stowe has a great policy where all sixth formers are involved with the rest of the school, and what I like to do is help out with the year 7 art lessons and read with the younger children. We're probably quite a small sixth form. There's maybe about 40 of us in total, including 10 different nationalities, which is lovely. What's great about having small class sizes is the fact that we get individual support from our teachers, and socially we know each other really well. We're all really close, and we always try to make sure we've got things planned outside of school. Recently, we just had a curry night, which was absolutely fabulous, and we're making sure we've got things planned for the future. If you're thinking about coming to Stowe, then come have a look around and a chat with us.